Apple brought an expensive speaker to a commodity assistant war. That was pretty much the narrative around HomePod in 2018. It nailed the computational audio model and AirPlay 2 when that part finally arrived, but a lot of people were too busy throwing cheap, okay enough sounding, but super smart Amazon or Google boxes into damn near every room in their house to even notice. But now Apple has John Giannandrea, Google's former head of machine intelligence and search, on their executive team, and things could finally, huge emphasis on the could and the finally, be getting much better for Siri. But what could that all mean for HomePod 2 in 2019? Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector. Apple TV, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, all of them were fascinating, often game-changing new products with terrific new user experiences, but fairly tragic limitations that prevented them from being truly transformative until at least the second generation. That's when Apple TV switched from Lobot macOS to a variant of iOS. iPhone got 3G, GPS, and apps. iPad got lighter, faster, and multitasking, and Apple Watch began to focus on fitness. Apple began working on what became HomePod a good half a decade ago, long before the rise of products like Amazon Echo and Google Home. Back then, the goal really was to make a speaker you could put anywhere, and that would sound great no matter where you put it or where you stood relative to it. And because it would be a speaker and not have a screen, Siri was just the way you'd be able to control it. Apple got pretty close to the first part. It's a stunningly legit computational audio miracle how good the thing sounds as you walk around the room. But by the time it was released, we were fully into the age of low-cost, commoditized Alexas and assistants, and almost no one ended up caring about how good HomePod sounded, only how much it cost and how well and fully Siri worked on the shelf. Apple never competed with netbooks. Instead, they shipped the MacBook Air and iPad. In the same way, I don't expect Apple to compete directly with commodity home hubs that are largely subsidized by massive data harvesting and exploitation, or as loss leaders for equally massive online stores. But Apple does do Mini, Mac Mini, iPod Mini, iPad Mini. HomePod Mini? Not everyone wants or needs a room-filling speaker. For some, a smaller speaker for the kitchen, bedroom, or to travel with and take in the camper or to the hotel room would be ideal, even and especially in kids' rooms where, frankly, you'd be out of your mind to put a competing smart device based simply on recent data violations alone. It still wouldn't be a $50 Amazon Echo competitor. Apple wouldn't do cheap speakers any more than it would do cheap netbooks, but it would be a smaller speaker for those who want to fill smaller rooms and nooks, and it would come with a smaller price tag to match as well. And if past is prologue in any way, a range of funner colors that Apple seems to shy away from on the flagships. I kind of get why Apple didn't include Bluetooth on the original HomePod. Again, they were bringing a speaker to an assistant fight, and if they had any chance of winning, it was with audio quality. If all reviewers and early buyers did was post endless head-to-heads with Bluetooth as the universally crappy conduit, a lot of HomePod's audio advantage could have gotten compressed away. But it's year 2 now. Everyone who cares about how good HomePod sounds knows about how good HomePod sounds, so it's time to let compatibility become key again. Just like Apple Music on Android and now Alexa, putting Bluetooth on HomePod makes it more valuable to multi-platform, multi-device families, and increasing value is how Apple usually justifies higher prices. I used to use a fancy Dolby 7.1 system, but the moment it fell out of warranty, it began blocking all content with false HDCP flags. Total loss. So, vowing to never fall prey to Hollywood shenanigans again, I went all in on a Sonos home theater system. Just one little optical cable from TV to soundbar, meshed to the sub and surround Play 3, and all my TV filled all of my room. I hoped HomePod could replace even the need for that one optical cable and those 4 separate speakers, providing room-filling, computationally matched sound all on its own, or even better still, 2 HomePods as a matched pair to really fill up the room. And it does, kinda, for brief periods of time over AirPlay 2, but that's it, that's all. There's still no way to pair them with the Apple TV like you would AirPods with iPhone, and once paired, have them go into TV priority mode and just work for all your home theater needs. Devoting an entire HomePod to an Apple TV may not be the most flexible use of its capabilities, but it's what some segment of users want to do, and it would be great if Apple figured out a way to let HomePod and Apple TV make just that kind of magic together. At least unless and until Apple ships a full-on HomeBar theater system specifically for television. I mean, it's not like they're investing billions of dollars in original programming right now or anything. Hey, tech nerd can dream. SIRIKIT is Apple's application programming interface for Siri. With it, third-party developers can integrate their apps and services so that Siri can control them. It's not an endless list of simple skills, and it's not custom commands or automation like Siri shortcuts, but a robust infrastructure that allows you to control a lot of things in a lot of ways. At launch, HomePod supported SIRIKIT extensions from messaging apps like WhatsApp, to-do apps like OmniFocus or Things, and note-taking apps. But that's it. Ride sharing, payments, reservations, those all exist on iOS but haven't shown up yet on HomePod, not beyond shortcuts, and they should. But audio extensions is what HomePod is really screaming for. Music apps like Spotify, podcast apps like Overcast and Pocket Casts, spoken word apps like Audible and Anchor. Apple could always partner with services to bring them into HomePod, but SIRIKIT would open up HomePod to all services, old and new, big and small. Right now, there's a different Siri for different devices, all with different capabilities. Siri on Apple TV is far more limited than iPhone or iPad, but has deep media knowledge and can even handle multi-language queries where, for example, a French speaker asks for a movie with an English title. Siri on Mac can interact with files and persist results, but only recently got support for HomeKit. Not being able to count on Siri to do something, regardless of which device you ask to do it on, is bad for users. It creates uncertainty, and that just chills usage. Having all those Siri-capable devices could be and should be a huge advantage. Apple Watch can already offer to send answers it's not capable of displaying on its own to your iPhone via continuity. What I'd really love is for all Siri devices to be able to harness the capabilities of any other Siri device in range. In other words, surfacing the network as a mesh assistant. For example, here's a list of movies playing nearby. Would you like me to read them to you or send them to your iPhone? Then you could choose to browse and even take the results with you. Especially because in a unified world, all devices would have some way to bookmark or pin Siri results the way the Mac can. Now, some would argue Siri needs to live in the cloud and treat all devices at endpoints, but that has privacy and security implications beyond the scope of this video. Others, myself included, would argue that full-on SiriOS would and should solve all of this and more. For now, if Siri is going to live on devices, it simply needs to persist across all those devices. Apple has been working on Voice ID for Siri for a long time. It shipped the first version with iPhone 6s and Hey Siri, and it's gotten better over time. HomePod, at least at launch, didn't go with Voice ID. Apple instead wanted it to be available and accessible to anyone in the family, if not anybody in the room. But that greatly limits what it can do in a multi-user environment. The ability to use biometric voice prints to authenticate different family members opens up the HomePod to being truly useful for everyone in the family. That way, one person doesn't get another person's messages, or parents don't get the favorites playlist filled with Raffi instead of reggae. Though individual users will still have to decide if the contents of their messages, for example, from something as innocuous as planning a surprise party to as compromising as a liaison or illegal activities, should really ever be read out loud anywhere at all. Importantly, it would let Siri start to build up individual profiles for us. Right now, AI assistants aren't that intelligent. They can learn to better understand what we're saying when we ask for a lift, but they seldom, if ever, really learn that we prefer Lyft to Uber. Likewise, they can start a connected shower for us when asked, but they don't really learn that we always want a shower started when we finish a workout. Deep context and prescience are next steps, not current tech. Amazon, Google, and even Facebook, Facebook, offer versions of their home assistants with screens. The idea is that you place them in your kitchen to help you cook, your family room to help you communicate, and your bedroom to... No. Gross. Do not put screens for those companies anywhere in your bedrooms, not without draping a shirt or a dozen over them all the time or something. Apple doesn't have a HomePod with a screen, but if you stick an iPhone or iPad on a stand, they essentially become HomePods with screens. They don't have the far-field mic or speaker arrays, of course, but iPad especially can work as a HomeKit hub, and they can both handle voice commands. But it'd be kinda hella cool if Apple offered a dock specifically designed to make iPhones or iPads more like HomePods. A dock with far-field mic and speaker arrays. Not an iPod Hi-Fi, though that'd be kinda retro awesome, but something you plug into in the kitchen or family room that can swivel to follow you around as you cook or clean, to show you that recipe or keep you in that FaceTime frame, but that goes dead the minute you pluck your device off of it, fully charged, of course, so that you can be absolutely sure, that you can absolutely trust it not to be watching you when you don't want to be watched. Apple has a full range of devices. Apple is all about ecosystem. What better way to make the HomePod a valuable part of the ecosystem than to tie it directly into all of those devices? It would also be a pretty amazing way to learn with Skillshare. Plug your iPad in, tell Siri to start your next cooking class, and then just chop, stir, and fry your way to a delicious meal. Or roll out some awesome sushi, all without getting your hands dirty, or rather getting your dirty hands all over your iPad. And if cooking isn't your thing, Skillshare has over 20,000 classes in design, business, technology, pretty much everything. Premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can get better at your job, get a better job, or just learn something that's not your job. Visit the link in the description below, and the first 500 of you get 2 months of unlimited access for free. Act now and start learning today. Thanks, Skillshare, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. There were 10 years of BlackBerry, Palm, Nokia, and Windows Mobile before iPhone. A decade of tablet PC before iPad. Apple released Watch much earlier, after only a few years of Pebble. But with HomePod, if anything, it just seemed like there was both less time to market and a way bigger chance Apple was already late to the game. But it only seems that way. The truth is, we're nowhere near even the original Palm Pilot, much less the Pebble stage of home assistants. If this were the Mac, we wouldn't even be out of Xerox PARC yet. Until we have a real Jarvis or Friday or Kit from Knight Rider level conversational AI interface, it remains anybody's game. Apple has a ton of work to do here, but they still have time to do it. All they need is the talent, the resources, and the will to get it done. At least that's what I think. Now, I'd love to hear what you think. Hit like, hit subscribe, it really helps out the channel, and then hit up the comments below and tell me what you want to see from HomePod in 2019. And thank you so much for watching.